My name is Hammer, and this is the story of how my life was turned upside down, only to be set right again in the most unexpected way. I met Lexi 5 years ago. She seemed to be everything I thought I wanted in a partner: beautiful, intelligent, and ambitious. We met at a charity gala hosted by one of my business partners, and from the moment we began talking, there was an undeniable spark. Lexi had a unique way of making me feel like I was the only person in the room. It wasn't long before I fell head over heels in love with her. As a successful entrepreneur, I was no stranger to people trying to take advantage of my wealth. My family and legal team insisted I sign a prenuptial agreement before marriage. It wasn't a decision I made lightly. I loved Lexi and didn't want her to feel like I didn't trust her. But in the end, I had to protect the life I had worked hard to build. Lexi didn't take it well at first. She argued that a prenup was a sign that I didn't believe in our love. After several heated discussions and reassurances, she eventually signed it. I thought that was the end of it. Little did I know it was just the beginning. The first few years of our marriage were wonderful. We traveled the world, built a beautiful home together, and talked about starting a family. Lexi had a successful career of her own as a marketing executive, and I was proud of her independence. I truly believed we were an unstoppable power couple. But over time, things began to change. Lexi became distant. She started spending more time at work, late nights, weekend conferences, and sudden business trips. At first, I didn't think much of it. I trusted her. But then, I began to notice small things that didn't add up. Text messages she would quickly hide, phone calls she'd step out of the room to take, and a general coldness in her demeanor. One night, my suspicions got the best of me. She claimed she was working late, so I decided to surprise her with dinner at her office. When I arrived, the lights were off, and her car was nowhere to be found. My heart sank, but I still hoped for an innocent explanation. A week later, I hired a private investigator. I felt sick doing it, like I was betraying her, but I needed to know the truth. And the truth was worse than I could have imagined. Lexi was having an affair with one of her coworkers, a man named Ryan. The investigator provided photos, texts, and even a video of them together at a hotel. It was undeniable. I was devastated. How could the woman I loved betray me like this? I spent nights questioning everything about our relationship, wondering what I had done wrong. But as the anger replaced the sadness, I realized something important. This wasn't my fault. Lexi made her choice, and now she would face the consequences. Thanks to the prenup, I had options. The agreement stated that if either of us committed infidelity, we would forfeit any claims to the other's assets. In other words, Lexi was about to lose everything. I confronted her one evening after dinner, laying the evidence on the table, watching as the color drained from her face. At first, she denied it. Then, she cried and begged for forgiveness. She claimed it was a mistake, that she still loved me, and that we could work through it. But I wasn't interested in hearing her excuses. I filed for divorce the next day. The process was swift, thanks to the prenup. Lexi was left with nothing but her personal belongings. The house, the cars, the vacations, everything was mine. She even had to pay her own legal fees. Watching her pack her things and leave was bittersweet. I still loved the person I thought she was, but I couldn't forgive the person she turned out to be. Now, a year later, I'm finally at peace. The divorce taught me a valuable lesson about trust and self-worth. I've started dating again, taking things slowly this time. While I may never fully understand why Lexi did what she did, I know one thing for certain. Signing that prenup was the smartest decision I ever made. Lexi thought she could have it all: her husband, her lover, and my fortune. But in the end, she gambled and lost everything. And as harsh as it sounds, I can't say I feel sorry for her. After Lexi walked out of my life, I tried my best to move on. For a while, it felt like my world was quieter, emptier, and strangely still. I buried myself in work, expanded my business ventures, and focused on rebuilding the parts of me that had been shattered by her betrayal. But life has a way of bringing closure when you least expect it. A few months after the divorce, I ran into Ryan, the man Lexi had cheated on me with. It was in a downtown coffee shop I rarely visited. At first, I thought about walking out to avoid the confrontation altogether, but curiosity got the better of me. I approached him. He looked surprised to see me, but not guilty. If anything, he seemed hollow. His once confident demeanor had been replaced by something almost pitiful. Before I could say anything, he spoke. "She left me too, you know." I blinked, taken aback. He must have seen the shock on my face because he let out a bitter laugh and continued, "Yeah, turns out I wasn't enough for her either. She started seeing someone else, and when I found out, she didn't even bother denying it. Just said I was too boring and walked out." I didn't know what to say. A part of me wanted to gloat, to revel in the poetic justice of it all. But looking at him, I realized there was no satisfaction to be found. Lexi's betrayal had left us both in ruins, albeit in different ways. "I'm sorry," I finally said, though I wasn't sure if I meant it. He shrugged, looking down at his coffee. "Don't be. I should have known better. You know, the way someone treats others is a good indicator of how they'll eventually treat you. I guess I just thought I'd be the exception." He left shortly after, leaving me with more questions than answers. Had Lexi ever been truly happy, or was she just a woman chasing something, an illusion, a thrill that could never satisfy her? I didn't know. And honestly, I wasn't sure I cared anymore. As the months turned into a year, I found myself reflecting less on Lexi and more on what I wanted for my future. I started therapy, something I had always scoffed at before, and it helped me come to terms with not just the divorce, but my own vulnerabilities. For the first time in years, I felt genuinely at peace. Then, just when I thought I'd put the past behind me, Lexi reached out. It was a cold, rainy evening when I received her email. The subject line read, "An apology." Against my better judgment, I opened it. In the email, Lexi admitted to everything: her infidelity, her selfishness, and her mistakes. She claimed she had been going through a dark time and didn't know how to cope. She apologized for hurting me and said she hoped I could forgive her one day. But it was the last part of the email that caught my attention. "I've lost everything, Jake. My career, my friends, my family's respect. I don't expect you to care, but I thought you should know. I wish I could go back and make different choices, but I can't. All I can do is try to be better, even if it's too late." For a moment, I felt a pang of sympathy, but it quickly passed. Her suffering didn't erase the pain she caused me. I didn't respond to the email, and I didn't plan to. What I did do, however, was use it as a reminder of how far I'd come since the day I confronted her and how much better my life was now without her. Today, I'm in a healthy place. I've started a foundation to help others rebuild their lives after betrayal and loss. The work has been deeply fulfilling, and through it, I've met incredible people who inspire me every day. As for Lexi, I don't know where she is or what she's doing. And for the first time in years, I'm okay with that. Her chapter in my life is over, and I've closed the book. Moving forward, I've learned to trust again, not blindly but cautiously. And while the scars of the past remain, they serve as a reminder of my strength and resilience. Life isn't perfect, but it's mine, and I'm determined to make it beautiful. Here's a shorter version of the ending. It's strange how life comes full circle. 2 years after my divorce from Lexi, I found myself at the edge of a lake, reflecting on everything I had been through. In that quiet moment, I realized I was finally free from the bitterness, the pain, and the shadow of her betrayal. Lexi had reached out a few times, apologizing and acknowledging her mistakes. I never responded, not out of spite, but because there was nothing left to say. I had moved on, and so had she, in her own way. Her chapter in my life was closed. Meeting Emma changed everything. She was compassionate, grounded, and patient. She showed me what real love and trust felt like. After a year of building something beautiful together, I proposed to her at that same lake where I found peace, and she said yes. Our wedding was simple, heartfelt, and everything my first marriage wasn't: authentic and filled with mutual respect. Now, As I sit on the porch of our little house, watching Emma tend to her garden, I feel nothing but gratitude. Gratitude for the lessons, the healing, and the second chance I was given. Life isn't perfect, but it's real, and it's mine. Sometimes, losing everything is the only way to find what truly matters, and for that, I am thankful.